Hey there, my name is Mackenzie, and welcome to another episode of my J-pop journal series. Today's spread is focusing on Hey Say Jump once again, who today, September 24th, are celebrating their 16th anniversary since formation. I wanted to do a 15th anniversary spread since this time last year, but it just kept getting put off until I ran out of time to do it. I was going to make that today's spread, but I didn't have any recent photos printed out and only had this photo set I printed out back in 2021 before Kato announced his departure from the group. Using an old photo shoot that includes a former member doesn't feel right for a current anniversary spread, but I also didn't want to waste these pictures as I do love them a lot, and the idea of cutting Kato out or covering him up felt disrespectful. So today's spread is just a general jump spread and not the 15th anniversary one. I will be making another spread for that specifically with a more recent photo shoot. Better late than never. As you can see, my filming location for this has changed as I've moved since the last time I made one of these videos. At the time of filming, I thought the dining room table was an okay place to film, as that was how I filmed things before, and the lighting did seem fine in person, but once I popped the footage into my editor to make this video, I realized it's actually shit, and everything looks weirdly overexposed sometimes. The coloring isn't super nice, it's almost like too yellowy and also too dark. And I don't know how this happened, but I'll definitely have to find a better spot to film these journaling videos moving forward because this is not it. Anyway, I apologize for the weird lighting of this video, and I hope you can bear with it for now to see how the spread turns out. I knew I wanted to keep the color palette they have for their clothing, so browns, blues, black. So I grabbed this brown packing paper to use as the background for the right side. I already planned this page out the day before, so I had a rough idea going in of how I wanted the main elements placed, which speeds up the process of making these videos and makes me feel a little less lost when I'm feeling less creative. I cut the guys out of the photos that would be going on the right side of the page, which took like entirely too long. I also had thoughts of cutting Kato out here because it would have just been so easy to do, but I didn't, which is a show of how kind I am. Jump haven't had a music release since May, and I didn't love that single much, so I am personally starved for content. Making this spread reminded me of how little I feel like I've seen them this year, but that's mostly being because they're focusing on touring for their anniversary celebrations and doing individual work, most of which, as a foreign fan, I can't participate in or consume. So, for me, it feels like they've been MIA for most of this year. When it comes to Jump's music, I'm definitely in the camp of leaning more toward the cooler, mature sound for them, so Dear My Lover just felt a little too cute for me at first. Though, like most of Jump's singles, it did grow on me after they bombarded me with it in the form of TikTok dance videos and silly challenges. I just felt like, as the only single released during their year-long 15th anniversary celebrations, that it could have been better. But that's just me. I'm holding out hope for their next one, as Jump rarely does the same style of song twice in a row for singles. They know how to keep me on my toes, never knowing what their next move is going to be. I like the variety personally, but I get why some people wouldn't love the inconsistency in terms of sound. When it came to non-picture elements of this spread, I didn't have any plans for what to include, but I did keep it very simple and basic overall so that the focus was on the guys and these amazing photos of them. I really liked this library card thing that I've been saving for a special occasion. The brown color works really well with the rest of the spread, and I thought it would be a good way to incorporate the group's name and any other info I ended up wanting to include. Once I got all the pictures down on the right, it was time to work on the left side. As you can see, there's a paper clip hanging onto the page from the previous spread, so I decided to tape that down to not only keep it in place and prevent it from falling off, but also to provide protection from it stabbing into the photo I was going to put over top. I didn't like the large amount of white space left on the left side, so I played around with adding some more brown paper as well as some random rippings of book pages and such to decorate the page and give it something a little more visually interesting but still simple enough to not distract from the main event, which is Jump. I didn't even think of this until I was editing the footage, but I wish I would have used the book paper as a shadow behind the boys lined up on the bottom right. I think that would have looked super cute, but I'll have to save that idea for a future spread instead. I hate it when I come up with cute ideas after I've already finished something. It was here, while I was trying to figure out how to place the book page sections on this side, that I actually read the words and realized it was like, I don't even know what it was, but it was like Christian text about sin and like being punished and stuff. No idea where these were originally from, but it instantly felt icky to use it in this spread because although I know it's just for aesthetics and the words aren't important, I know some people look too much into things when viewing art and think everything must have been a deliberate choice rather than just it looked pretty. And I know this because recently I did a little card for my brother's baby shower and I included like book pages in it, like so that it was like the text and stuff, and I didn't read it because it didn't matter, and it was from this same whatever this was, so it was also like very like Christian, and my family is not religious, so my family were trying to read the text thinking that it like was a deliberate choice to be on the baby shower card, but it wasn't. And so I realized that people will read the words and think that they were a deliberate choice because they match somehow with whatever it is I've made, and obviously that's not true. So I swapped out the parts I felt were weird that I hadn't put down yet with Japanese dictionary bits, only to realize that the words on there were also awful, and I wasn't sure how my luck could be this bad with something so random. Anyway, eventually I found ones I could use well enough and got to stick those on there, and then moved on with the spread building, which was taping down the pictures better and bringing in my limited washi tape options. This red and pink flower might have been fine, but I ultimately went with the blue and beige design washi as it matches the overall color palette better and just blends in nicely. Now it's, of course, at the very end, just as I'm finishing up, that I remember these leftover retro photos I thought to include, and now am too far in to make work without taking stuff apart. I played around with it for a long while trying to figure out how I could make it work because I loved the way this photo shoot pairs well with some of these images, but ultimately realized it would be too much work to do it justice. I'd have to literally start over and rebuild it with all these extra photos in mind, so I set them aside for a future spread where I'll hopefully get some use out of them. Now it's time for the final stage, which is adding the info. After writing out the group name, I decided to include their formation announcement anniversary as well as the date of their first single, only to have it get covered up by their little heads anyway. I had to zoom in here because otherwise my face is weirdly in frame, and I decided to do this one from the top-down view from start to finish, so that's unfortunately what happens. When it comes to this series, I decided I would make more of an effort to switch up the camera angles and make these videos more visually interesting, especially when it comes to like the little details. I always regret not switching up the camera angles more often, but I was honestly just very tired while filming this and wanted to get this done as I had another one to film after this. Setting up the top-down view is such a pain in the ass, and I didn't want to have to do it a second time when I start filming the next one, even though past Mackenzie's reasoning does make sense. Current Mackenzie is not happy with the way this video turned out as a result. I'll have to remind myself of this next time I'm filming one of these and thinking I won't bother switching up the camera angles as I go. I always regret not doing it. But feel free to let me know in the comments. Do you like a straight top-down view from start to finish, or do you prefer having a variety of different camera angles? All that aside, I then moved on to decorating with some doodles, which is always hard for me to start because I have major perfectionist issues, and I worry that they won't be cute or like perfectly imperfect. I always worry about maintaining a balance between cute aesthetic doodles here and there and overdoing it and it end up feeling visually overwhelming. I think I just barely struck that perfect balance with this one. I knew I wanted to add their names somewhere, and as you can see here, I had a mini brain malfunction trying to figure out where and how to do it.
And later, a Hollywood breakup now turning into a transatlantic custody battle.
I finally bit the bullet and did it, and I like the way the names turned out even though they're not perfect. I wasn't sure if I should write down their surnames or their given names, and I ended up just writing them out how I'd normally refer to them in conversation. After decorating around each name, I finished up with a few more doodle additions throughout the spread where it felt a little bit empty, and then glued down some of those little parts like arms and heads. When writing out the month and the year that I did the spread, I thought afterwards that I maybe should have written out the date this photo shoot came out, or even the month and year they formed. The date written this way feels like it's implying that's a recent photo shoot or something, but maybe I'm just overthinking it like I do most things. Because the lighting sucked here, I took proper close-ups on my bed instead where the lighting was much nicer. I think this is my favorite jump spread out of the 3 I've done in this journal so far. I'm looking forward to doing their 15th anniversary spread and sharing that here with you. at some point. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in another J-Pop Journal episode real soon.